We're going to be talking about imposter syndrome, and I'm going to start off with a meditation, give people some time to get in here. If you hop in, say hi. Interaction and whatnot is absolutely the key to great live videos. So do yourself a favor, do me a favor, do us all a favor by being brave enough to enter your questions, comments, and concerns in the comments, please, at any time. No question is wrong or bad. They're all wonderful. So let's go ahead and take a second. Close our eyes. And focus on our breathing. Into our belly. Deep and full. Spine tall. Long. Shoulders back and down. Grounding our energy into the lower half of our body. Getting out of our heads. And into the present moment of what is. Not what we think may be. Not our illusions or questions of possibilities and how things may or may not actually be. But taking everything for face value. What's happening right now in front of you. That's the only thing that matters at this moment. The past and the future are all an illusion. All we have is right now. And we can practice getting out of our head and into our physical body. Actually being in the space that we occupy at this moment. Not going over the same conversation that you had 2 days ago, worrying about why you said this or they said that. It's a non-issue at this point. So we keep moving away from things of the past, but staying slow enough to where we don't surpass the present and move into the future. Having goals are great. But other than that, there's nothing in the future that we need to worry about. Nothing that requires our attention. Nothing that we need to think about. All we ever need to do is come into the present moment and be mindful of our surroundings. Expand our awareness into all corners of our body, into the space around us. Feel the air and the energy that connect you with the entire room. Creating space is something all of us could use more of. In this world where everything's go, 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 fast-paced, moving all the time, everything's constantly pulling at our attention, our energy. One of the best things we can do for ourselves and for our mental health, for our physical health, is to learn how to create space, to slow down, Give yourself permission to extend time. And only ever move forward once you feel at ease, at peace, relaxed. Once you've done your body scan and released all the tension in all your muscles, give yourself permission to pause in all things. You know, we see these videos, and I myself feel like we need to rush through them. We need to hurry. We know if you're creating videos, you feel like you need to constantly fill the space with words and movement and things to entertain so that you keep their attention, so that you don't, you know, so that you can get all of it out before they lose interest and walk away. But giving yourself permission to create space, that's powerful because it gives other people permission to create space as well. When we can find comfort in the discomfort of silence, the discomfort of space, in that moment, in that space is where we can find peace and contentment and happiness. When we can allow that need to constantly fill the space to fall away, the universe fills it with that which we need the most, which is often peace and contentment, if we just allow it to be, instead of trying to fight against it. So welcome. I'm glad that you can be here today. I hope you feel more at peace with that. And I hope that you carry on this feeling throughout the rest of your day. You know, it is early morning for a lot of us. And starting your day off, starting everything off with a little meditation helps you to get your mind right for the task at hand. You should arguably spend a minute at least, and that's all it takes, 30 seconds to a minute really, once you get used to it and understand what it is that you're doing, to get into the headspace needed for whatever task is at hand. We get overwhelmed, stressed, and anxious and all of that when we're flipping from a task that requires not a lot of energy to a task that requires a lot of energy, a lot of focus, a lot of everything in a split second. We need to live our life in flow, right? And jumping from this to that is not flow, it's a right angle. And right angles are not a thing in nature, which means when we force ourselves into a right angle, we're like, our mind, our body, our everything, our entire being spazzes for a split second because there was no flow into the thing. So meditation, a minute, 30 seconds, whatever, 2 minutes, however long it takes you to flip your mindset from that task to this task and ask yourself, what do you need going into this new task that will help you flow more into it instead of right angle yourself, throw yourself into it. So, yeah, a minute meditation before every task. But anyway, so point at hand, we're talking about imposter syndrome today. And it's something that a lot of us think doesn't affect people who have made it or are doing it or are successful in XYZ, whatever, whatever. And that's not true at all. Not true. Everybody, unless you're egotistical and narcissistic, everybody has imposter syndrome to an extent. We all feel like, who am I to XYZ? Or why how could I possibly think that I'm good enough to step into the role of XYZ? And this is a good thing, okay? Because it means that you care, okay? Imposter syndrome means that you actually do have other people's best interest in mind, because if you feel like you're not the person, like, who am I to, then that means that you actually do want to help them, and you're doing good. Okay, you're doing good. So write that down. If you have a notepad or paper or whatever, I am going to turn all these lives into a Facebook, no, Facebook, blog post, so that we will have notes and whatnot going back and looking at it. So my plan is Tuesday Facebook lives on specific subject, Thursdays blog post highlighting what we talked about, anything that was good in it, and all that good jazz. So, write that down. Imposter syndrome is a good thing. It means you care and you're doing great. Um, but moving past it can be really hard. It's a mindset thing. Everything is a mindset thing. You have to find ways to convince your mind that you are good enough. And learning to move forward despite the imposter syndrome, despite what you feel is holding you back. Um, I absolutely have imposter syndrome. I recently started teaching yoga classes at my local gym, and going into it, I was super stressed. I've been practicing yoga for like 8 years, y'all. And, I've been sharing the videos. I do, if no one shows up to class, which is a very common thing these days in COVID world. Um, if no one shows up to class, then I always bring my tripod so that I can do a Facebook Live yoga practice to the Earth and Water Facebook page, and then I've been sharing it in here. So, I mean, I've been practicing yoga for 8 years. I know what I'm doing. I do. I don't feel like I do, but I do. And and then I have that voice in the back of my head that says, "Oh, you don't look like a yoga instructor," because there's no secret that yoga instructors have a certain type. We equate yoga with a certain body type, a certain type of person, and I don't fit the perimeters of that exactly. Like, um, they're supposed to be, or the quote unquote supposed to be. Okay, remember that, quote unquote supposed to be, because everything's relative and everything's up for debate. There is no definitive answer to what anything is supposed to look like, but they're quote unquote supposed to be super fit, athletic, um you know that, and I'm not that. Okay, I sit at a computer like 8 hours a day at least, so I'm not super fit. But that doesn't matter, does it? Do I know the poses? Do I know the information? Do I know how to help people get into these poses? Do I know how to help people relax into them? Do I know the mechanics so that people aren't injuring themselves? Do I know lots of fun facts about the background and whatnot of what we're studying? These are the types of things that I have to focus on. So, does it matter that my body type doesn't fit that of what a yoga instructor is supposed to be like? No, it doesn't. It doesn't matter. Nobody's going to come into my class and be like, "Oh, I thought she'd be skinnier." It's really not a thing. Um, and all of these things we're lying to ourselves about. Uh, I got, I'm in a university, and I got a really bad grade yesterday on a paper. And I've been kind of like, and it pertains to what I do with coaching, y'all. And so now I've been sitting around thinking I'm not good enough. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I'm completely not cut out for this. And none of it's true, okay? I've been doing this for 5 years. 5 years? I have very little perception of time. Um, but it's ridiculous. You know, imposter syndrome is just another way for our minds to lie to us. And if we're not actively trying to transform our mindset around things, then it will just throw things in there however it wants, however, you know, our mind, our mind, body, spirit, okay? Yes, they're all connected. Yes, they're all pieces of us, but there's the mind is also separate from the body. You know, the body is an intelligent being just as the mind is an intelligent being. The body is okay with rest. The mind is not. The mind doesn't like to rest. It doesn't like to um, hang out and chill and think that everything's okay. All right, because it's the mind's body to anticipate danger in order to protect us. So when things come up, when there's space, the mind wants to fill it with things, and 9 times out of 10 it's filling it with things that in an effort to keep us aware of things so that we can protect ourselves. So imposter syndrome is just our mind telling us we're not good enough, we're not qualified, we're not whatever, 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 to protect us from failing, to protect us from letting other people down, to protect us from the haters that you will definitely get if you put yourself out there into the world. Protect us from bullies, protect us. That's it. That's it. So, whatever you're trying to do, whatever you have imposter syndrome about, take out a piece of paper and write down all of the false beliefs that your mind is trying to tell you is true about the situation at hand. Uh, is it telling you that you're not qualified? That you don't have a degree in this? So, what makes you think that you should be able to do it? Um, what is it telling you? You know, do you feel like you need another certification? Do you feel like you need another course? Do you feel like you need someone's approval? That's a big one. Because we are often always looking for someone's approval, someone's validation, when we really just need to have our own approval and our own validation. And we get that with oftentimes concrete evidence is what really helps. So take a list of all of the things that will point towards you actually knowing what you're doing. You know, like I was talking about with the yoga earlier. I have been practicing for 8 years. I have read at least 3 yoga books. I have gone to classes after classes after classes. I've experienced tons of different types of yoga. I have a certification, which is not necessary. Okay, you don't have to get certification after certification after certification unless you're I have to shift. The sun's really hot. Unless, you know, it's a psychologist or a doctor or something that actually does require a degree or a certification or something, then yeah, you know, yeah, go get a certification. If you need that legally. But you can I have absolutely taken courses, taking certification courses where and my yoga one's a great example. I took a certification course for yoga that was absolute crap. Okay. I knew more than the course did. It was from start to finish, laughable, and yeah, y'all, it was, I could have written a better course myself on yoga. And, but now I have the certification and the piece of paper that validates me. And, you know, especially if you're trying to do something in the online presence, uh, niching down. I don't niche is a hate love relationship type word. We hate it, but it's important, and that can be a whole video. I'm gonna write that down. Would y'all like to do a episode on niches? Would that be helpful? I'm going to make a note of it if it is. Let me know in the comments, yes or no, if that's something that y'all would like to cover. I'll give you a second while I go over here to my notes and write it down. Not Google Docs. Google Calendar. Niches. Niches get stitches. I didn't come up with that. I saw somebody say that one time or something. Okay. So, don't talk about niches. Talk about imposter syndrome. Alright. Oftentimes, whatever we ourselves have struggled with the most is what we are actually experts in. You know, I have spent the past 20, we'll say 20 years, because, you know, when I was a kid, I probably wasn't actually trying to figure out how to fix myself. I spent like the past 20-ish or so years dealing with and trying to live with and trying to fix anxiety and confidence issues. So therefore, I have inadvertently become an expert in anxiety and confidence because I myself have dealt with it for so long. Oftentimes, whatever our trials are is what we're experts in. But not always trials. It can be interests too. It doesn't matter if you have 3 certifications in yoga. If this other person over here has read 37 500-page books on yoga, they probably know more than the person who is certified and validated. You know, so everything's a perspective. Do know that everybody encounters imposter syndrome, but that it's important to keep pushing forward anyway and keep acting anyway, because people need what you have to offer. We say the world today is so corrupt, right? Everything's so corrupt. Everything is coming to light now. And side note, we can talk about how it's a great thing that all of this is coming to light, because in the light things change. You know, when we bring light to these areas that we see needs change, needs innovation and whatnot, then we can start making the change. Change is messy. It's not clean cut. It's not pretty. You have to make a mess to clean a mess. So the fact that the world looks so messy right now is a great thing, because from the mess is where we can up level and move forward and all of that. But imposter, well, not necessarily, because the internet has brought us all sorts of opportunities to where we have a voice now, whereas our ancestors didn't really. You know, life is completely different than it was for them. They didn't have time to worry about the rights and wrongs of the world, because they were struggling trying to just feed themselves and their families every day. So we, the ones who have succeeded in having a meal every day and having our basic needs met, you know, back to Maslow's pyramids, that's down here, we can start to level up towards the top of the pyramid now. And those of us who are in a position of privilege to where we have accomplished our basic needs being met can now turn our focus towards working on ourselves and in an effort to better the world as a whole. People like us are so needed. You know, people who have imposter syndrome, who really care about the greater good, who really care about other people and making a difference in the world. We have to figure out how to push forward and get our voice out there, get our voice heard, or else the people who are corrupt, the people who are in power, the egotistical and narcissistic people who don't struggle with imposter syndrome, they're going to keep moving up just like they always have. And they're going to keep creating the world just like they always have. And it's up to us, the people who really don't want to get up on stage, but we need to, because we have good intentions. And that's what matters. As long as you're coming from your heart, that brain heart coherence, as long as you're coming from that place, you cannot fail. Okay? And when I say cannot fail, success is just failing over and over and over and over and over again. Okay? The people who have succeeded have failed more than the other people have even tried. Okay? You just have to keep putting yourself out there. You have to keep showing up. And that's it. It's really not that hard. Let me tell you a story that happened this past week. Um, so there's, school is starting back and whatnot, and in my school system, we've had these. They promised us one thing, and then they gave us a different thing, and it wasn't right. We reached out and we were like, "Hey, this ain't gonna work," and we got one really rude comment back. So I wrote a really long letter because my expertise lie in writing, and I knew I could formulate something that got my point across. So I wrote a really long letter, left it as a review on their Facebook page, the school system, okay? And then I emailed them, and then I also took the letter and emailed it to the local news station. And with it, I was like, "Hey, I know you've already covered this week," because they had covered this exact story like 3 or 4 days prior, because it was, and I was like, "Hey, I know you've already covered this story, but I was wondering if you could reach out to them again for a statement, because they reached out to them first for a statement, and they didn't reply. They opted not to provide a statement." And so I was just like, "Hey, I was wondering if you could reach out to them again for a statement." That's it. That's all I asked. And well, within an hour, they emailed me back and was like, "Hey, can you get on a Zoom call and do an interview for this today?" And I was like, "Okay, yeah, I can do that." So I rearranged my schedule a little bit and did like a 10-minute interview with the news station about the school thing, and I was on TV for like a minute altogether, so but the point of the story is it doesn't take a lot of effort to get on TV or get on the stage or get on the podcast. It really doesn't. You just kind of got to show up and put yourself out there. All I did was send an email about a cause that I believed in. I was like, "Hey, this is wrong," and they were like, "You're right, it is. You want to talk about it on TV?" And I was like, "Okay, yeah, sure, we can talk about it on TV." So all you have to do, it's not that hard. It's not that hard to get your voice out there, be heard, be seen, make a difference. And we won, by the way. We won. They backtracked and gave us everything that we had initially promised us. So yay! Feel like I saved my child today or this week. But and not only mine but others. And it was me and only one other mom that had reached out to bigger, more things. Most parents didn't even bother saying, "Hey, this isn't going to work," or "Hey, what are you doing? You lied." Most parents just pulled their kid out of the system entirely, like over 400, to homeschool, and then, or just put them back in traditional school, which is what they were trying to manipulate us into anyway. But the point of the story is that if you can just learn how to act anyway, just put yourself out there, hit send, hit publish, hit post, talk to people, email people, collaborate, then you'd be amazed at what you can accomplish, okay? You have to remember that we're all human, okay? People put doctors, lawyers, celebrities, government officials, they put all of these people up on a pedestal and label them as more than themselves But we're all just people. Every single one of us is just a person doing the best that they can with what they have available to them. The intentions behind that may vary, and that's why it's so important for people like us who have good intentions to put ourselves out there and face our fears and act despite them, act in despite the imposter syndrome, despite the anxiety, despite the fear, despite the stress. I have absolutely given speeches in front of a crowd of people during a panic attack where I'm shaking, I'm sweating. I'm getting tunnel vision, so everything around here is blurring, and everything in front of me, like, because I have this much, because everything's black around here, and I have this focal point, and the focal point itself, I swear, is shrinking and getting bigger, and shrinking and getting better. And the more I stare at it, the more it shrinks, and then I'll become aware of it, and then it'll get bigger again. But I'm pushing through anyway. And is it uncomfortable? Yeah. And is it fun? No. But I do it anyway because somebody needs to. Somebody with good intentions needs to get up here and lead people in the direction that they need to go, because if we don't, they're just going to keep following the mainstream, and 9 times out of 10, that's a that's a broad statistic. I don't know the statistic. A lot of the time, the mainstream isn't going in the way it should go. So, if we're not acting despite our imposter syndrome, then who's out there acting? Who's out there leading? Do they have the best intentions? Are you comfortable with them speaking for you when in the back of their head all they have is greed in mind? Not that all people who have done anything in the world are greedy. There are absolutely people with great intentions. But, you know, all of the things that are being unveiled in the news right now with celebrities and one percenters and all those people up there that we've put on a pedestal, all the things that are becoming revealed about them, that, like, wow. I mean, I'm talking Ellen and Oprah. And, like, I don't know what's true. I don't know what's not true. I don't speculate. I'm just saying, if it is, like, damn. So, the system needs an overhaul, obviously. And I'm not on a soapbox. What? um, but those of us who have imposter syndrome are trying our best. Imposter syndrome is a great piece of proof that you do have good intentions and you do want to help and you are doing good, and just keep on keeping on with that. Push it to the side, and the more you meditate, the easier it'll be to learn and differentiate what is truth. Okay, what is truth? I was really held back when I first started my business because of all the legal stuff. I felt like I needed legal things to be legit and have that permission to step into what I'm trying to do and everything. So I went to a lawyer and I showed him my contracts and told him what I was doing and all of that. And you know what he told me? And this may have been terrible legal advice. I don't know, because legal stuff is not my zone of expertise. He told me that most businesses get too stuck on the legal stuff and spend a ton of money getting all of their legal ducks in a row before they even know if their business is viable and going to make it. So they fail before they even get out of the door, and they just give up, and they've already spent $1,000 in legalities. So his advice was to just go ahead and do whatever you want to do. Um, if you're, he was like, if you need like a business license, then I would get a business license. But those are like $30, maybe. It's not much. It's not much at all. Um, and all you gotta do is go up to the annex is what we call it. I don't know if that's universal. But it's where you get your tags and stuff. Wherever you get your tags is where you go to get a business license. And it's that simple. And you just go up to the counter and you're like, hey, I need a business license. And they're like, uh, product or service. And you tell them. And then they're like, here you go. And you fill out like half a sheet of piece of paper and give them like $20, $30, something like that. And ta-da, you're legal. But his advice was just, do the bare minimum until you start making money. And then once you start making money and things start becoming routine and predictable and you're building and all of that, then start worrying about the legal stuff. And by then you can just get a lawyer to do it all for you. So I was like, oh, okay. But I actually don't even need a business license because I'm a service and I live out in the country. So if you live in the city, it's different. But since I live in the county and I'm not on those, and they're like, whatever. So that's great. Um, anyway, I've been up there like 3 times to get one for various things. So yeah, what's holding you back from progressing? Okay. Do you have any questions? I want to know what your questions are. I want to know what you think is holding you back. And really differentiate, is that truth? Or is it just something that your mind is telling you in an effort to protect you from succeeding? Because that's what it does. It protects you from succeeding. And if you can learn to differentiate truth and fact from these illusions and false beliefs, then you can learn how to put your blinders on, essentially, to those um, comments that your mind is trying to protect you from. So you can put your blinders on and kind of push it out to the edge and just stay focused. So this voice, this mind that is saying you're not good enough, you're not worthy, you're not certified, you're not whatever, 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 you can essentially create, it's another person and it's standing over here and it's telling you all of these things that you can't do, and you just have to learn how not to listen to it and be like, you need to shut up, because just like other people hold us back in an effort to protect us. Parents tell their children that you can't be an artist. That's not a real job. You can't be a writer. That's not a real job. Writers and artists don't make money until they're dead. They're not telling you that because they want you to fail or because they don't want you to succeed. They're telling you that because in an effort to protect you from yourself, essentially. They thoroughly believe that they can't make a living being an artist. Therefore, you can't make a living being an artist. Everyone's disbelief, lack of belief in us is just their disbelief, lack of belief in themselves. They don't see where they could do that. Therefore, they don't see where you could do that. And your mind is essentially the same, okay? Your mind is trying to protect you. They're like, whoa, that sounds hard. I don't think you could do that. Very few people actually succeed in that. What are you doing? And very few people succeed is relative, for one. And for two, is only because most people give up before they get there. And that's it. You need there's Will Smith, who's having a really bad month, bless him. Has had this interview where someone asked him what was the difference between him and people who don't make it. And he was like, absolutely nothing. He was like, I have no special talents. I'm not that good. Uh, the only difference between me and that guy is that I'm not afraid to die on a treadmill. And they're like, what do you mean? And he was like, if you put me and this other guy on a treadmill, I'm on a treadmill, he's on a treadmill, and you say, whoever stays up here the longest gets the part, I will die on that treadmill. And it's all about persistence and not giving up and not selling yourself short. when our mind tells us we can't go any further, we're only like 40% of the way of our capabilities. So, keep all those things in mind, um, because they're absolutely true. That's the only difference between me and people who didn't, quote unquote, make it, is that I didn't give up. I just kept going, kept going, kept going, kept going, and failed and failed and failed and failed and failed again and failed again, and failed a different way, and then failed like that. And you just keep finding different ways to fail, and each failure is an opportunity to learn, to grow, to do better next time. So yeah, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Even if you're not making this live, if you're hitting the replay, I will still see them. I will still answer them. I'm going to take this video and edit it and stick it in a blog post with some viewpoints. And if you have questions, then I can absolutely answer them in the blog post Thursday. So let me know. I'm going to go now. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know. I hope it helped. I hope it was of service. If it was, please tell me. It's, like I said, we all have imposter syndrome. And even though I have all of this information and I'm willing to help and I'm willing to share and I'm da-da-da, please, 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 let me help. It's always nice and validating and great to hear that you got something out of them, that I'm not just uh, spinning my tires in the mud. So let me know if you enjoyed it. Let me know if it was of service, and let me know if you have any questions and all of that. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Namaste.